Hello, fellow map makers, and welcome to another live map making session. I hope you're all doing fine. And if anybody missed my little video preview a second ago, the cat is still around. Just move the camera away again. Sound is good. Thank you very much, and I hope you're all looking forward to a little foray into Cosmographer tonight, because that's what I want to show off. The sector and subsector maps from Cosmographer 3 and the traveler data import for those maps. It might be a bit something that's not of specific interest to some, because the Traveler role-playing game is certainly not very widely played anymore, but some people still do, and it's generally useful for science fiction maps if you're creating sectors or large star maps in this kind of arrangement style. You can of course use this outside of the Traveler role-playing game as well. So let's see where we start here. First off, if you do like our channel, please give us a like and a subscribe. That's always helpful. And if you have any questions during the session, please post them in the chat. I'll be happy to show stuff on screen if I can. And there's lots of knowledgeable people around in the chat who might be able to help you out. Special welcome to any new viewers. I just saw someone posting that you're first time on the live chat. Welcome. Always nice to see people popping in during the live session. Alright, so we do have a little bit of a section of one of the example maps on screen from Cosmographer. If I zoom out, you'll see that it's a pretty big map, and on this level of zoom you'll not see very much, but we'll take a look at the details in a bit. That looks like a map with that took a long time to create, with lots of detail and little things in there, but the truth is it is just generated in a few seconds with the automatic data import for Cosmographer. Basically, there's a website available, travelermap.com, which provides all the data for the universe background, the fictional universe that the traveler is set in, and you can query that with the sector you want, and it will deliver all the data from the role-playing game for all the worlds and trade routes and stuff. And we've created a add-on or a DLL that takes that data and translates it into a script for Campaign Cartographer, which then gets executed and fills all this detail in the template. Good, and just checking the chat there. Yeah, Traveler's been around for a long time, as Bill says on the chat there, and there's lots of stuff out there. It's certainly not an unpopular game in any sense of the word, but it's not as big in the public eye anymore as it used to be in the earlier days of role-playing game. It's been around since 1986, well, no, that's how long he's played. It's been around since the late 70s, as far as I know, and it was the first big science fiction role-playing game. So that's certainly a very important part of our hobby, and so many people will have at least heard of it by name. And there's always new editions coming up. The original author, Mark W. Miller, is still working on this. And back when we created Cosmographer 3, we talked to him, and he was working on, I think, Traveler 5 at the time. And we came into an arrangement that we could create some tools for his game using his rules and map layouts and stuff. And his users could use those. And we could use the Traveler brand name basically in Cosmographer. That's why you get the Traveler is one of the few role-playing games that is in all our add-ons that is specifically mentioned by name. So how do we create go about creating such a sector map and what choice do we have. So let's take a look. We start this by just clicking the new map icon as usual, not saving this map here, and then go to map type Cosmographer. And for the automatic import, we need to decide settings ourselves. Click next. And then we do have at the bottom of the list, or almost at the bottom of the list, the two sector import styles in here. There's two of them. One, like that's the one as you've seen in the example map with a black background and bitmap, or at least colored symbols for everything. And the other one is the more suited for printing, the black and white vector style that is more reminiscent of the actual Traveler maps you will see appearing in the Traveler modules and information. So we'll go for the pretty one, the bitmap style. Click next, and there we can see the template. That's basically what is defined as a sector in the Traveler game, which is 4x4 subsectors. We'll take a look at subsector maps a little bit later. And these are always set up this way. Basically, this is the mapping standard of Traveler and its Galactic Imperium. It does make some significant simplification, and that is all the star maps are 2D and not 3D. So everything's flat, basically. And the setting simply ignores the fact that a true galactic empire would, of course, be three-dimensional in space. And that makes it a lot easier to create maps, especially since Traveler was done before computer support for the games was not practical. Having 3D maps of the star system was something really absolutely impossible and impractical at the time. So, and they kept that standard, and it works perfectly fine for the game. It's just something you have to ignore in the fiction, that all the layout of the star empires and worlds, not the individual worlds itself naturally, but the empires, or the big sectors that is located in the bit of the Milky Way galaxy is flat. To create our map from this, we'll just click finish at this point, and let's save our map. I'm gonna put in create a map of a specific sector that I have already in mind, and I'll already selected the name for that, and you see it here. That is the Solomani Rim. That's one of the famous sectors of the Traveler setting, and because Solomani Rim is the sector where Earth Terra is located. But you'll see there's lots of different sectors in here. All the sectors of the setting, that's because this list is pulled from the Traveler map website. It gives all the sectors where data is available from the website. And therefore you can choose lots of different ones. Not all of these will be fully filled with data, I think, but I'm not totally sure which ones are full and which ones not. But so I've picked some of the bigger or more famous ones to be sure that I get full set of data. And two of the most important or most famous ones are the Spinward Marches. That's the setting of the original game. And then the Solomani Rim, which I'm picking here. Then you've got a few different options. You've got, you can keep the symbols simple. That means you'll just have colored symbols for the planets or the systems. I'm here choosing the depictive version. That means we have bitmap symbols and an indication of the atmosphere. I could also enable size variation that would scale the symbols according to the size of the world that is referenced. but that makes some very small, and it's not that helpful because the size is indicated in another way as well. So I'll uncheck this. I can change export settings, which I'm not going to go into. You can save the CC3 script file. Basically, what the add-on does with Cosmographer does is it takes the data from the website, from travelermap.com, and translates it into a script that CC3 can execute to create the map. And you can save that script file for bug checking, for later reference, or just redo it without access to the website. It might sometimes be handy to just save that script file, but that's not necessary here for us. And then to finish, we'll just click Create Sector Map. Got a question there, I think, from Sue. There's a question whether the list updates if there's new sectors on the website. Yes, it does. Basically, every time you execute this new map, it does query the website and pulls the list. That does mean that you do need internet access and the website must be up for this to work. But we've had very few outages of that website over the years, I think. All right, so I'll just create sector map, and then it will take a little while, and you can actually watch the map being created. First off, you'll see that it creates some borders. That is basically for the interstellar states that are present on the map. Then it does create the communication routes, these so-called X-boat lanes in the Traveler, basically the postal, kind of the postal service in the setting. And then it goes about creating all the names and icons and profiles for the different planets. And that will just take a little while. You see up here a little bit where it is working at the moment. It's on the text sheet, and it's putting on all the that was UWPs before. Now it's onto worlds. UWP stands for Universal World Profile, and is actually a letter and number code that describes the planet or world that is the main location of a system. I'll take a quick look. It's not important for us here for the mapping, but it is gives physical data about the main world, like how much water it has, what atmosphere, and then also population data on how many people live there, what kind of government is present. And Traveler has a big system for creating those and also randomly generating sectors and stuff. It was very big thing originally of the game, of just randomly generating locations that you could go and explore. And here now the symbols for the planets are placed. You can see them. No, you might not be able to on the video, but I can see them appearing there from subsector by subsector. Almost finished with that. And then we're adding starports, very important in the Traveler setting, what kind of facilities are there for your starship, whether you can refuel properly, and what kind of replacement parts you can get, then what kind of bases are present, and all this data gets pulled from the website and applied to the map via the script. Let's see how. Still working here. It's now we're placing gas giants. And you see now it's actually off to the side. The script is running there with the text on the map, on the cursor prompt. It's actually interesting. It's echo off. It's basically it's turned off for the command line, not showing the text being executed here, but that does not apply to the cursor prompt. I had the cursor prompt on from showing the base interface last week. That's why it's still on at the moment. And here we come with the text, and then we're done. There's the map. Like how long? 20 seconds, half a minute. and all this data has been filled in. I'm going to turn on sheet effects, and there you can see the outline. Let's zoom in a bit, like this here. I found this name of the political entity, the Vegan Autonomous District, quite funny. I'm pretty sure back at the time when this is obviously for the star Vega and not for vegans, like eating only plant, no animal-based food. But in today's political context, I found this a little bit funny. But nevertheless, if I zoom in a little bit further, you'll see each of these hexes in Traveler is the space for a system that is habitable or at least used in some way. Not all of them are filled, obviously. And then in there you've got the name of the world. This letter number code is the universal world profile I talked about before the last. No, actually, sorry. With the letter here on top, that is the starport. Very important. A is the best. Then you've got this symbol for whether a gas giant is, or multiple gas giants are present in the system. Very important for Traveler for refueling your starship. And then you've got the base codes. Basically, this is a naval base, I think. And then the the postal routes connecting these. And that's how the map looks and is detailed here. If we take a look here, here is the subsector. One of these rectangles is subsector. That's the sole subsector. And in there you'll find Terra. That's basically where Traveler places our world. It is a kind of a future history, the Traveler background of several thousand years in the future, where this this human imperium has been created, or it's actually the third imperium already in this setting, and it was not based on Terra, and later then captured Terra. And I'm not going to go into the details, but it does have our world in there. And even some of the star systems in here are ones based on real astronomy, like Barnard is a system that is fairly close in astronomical distances. I'm not sure about all the other details, but they've taken some prompts, at least, from actual astrography. Yeah, and there we are. You've got some external settings here, like the reference stuff. Those are the names of all the different subsectors. You can even, I think, click on them and it jumps to the location exactly. This is just the number reference for this, or the letter reference for the subsectors. And then you've got some map keys here showing off what is what. Got another question there from Sue, or by Terry, from Terry actually. Yes, about how to customize the map and add stuff later. I'll show that in a second. You can, of course, do work on this as on any other campaign cartographer map. You see, important in Traveler are the travel zones, amber and red zones, which are basically warnings about traveling somewhere, how dangerous a planet is, or red zones, which planets which are actually interdicted by the Imperium. And then you've got the key for the individual systems with what codes are what, and then some stuff for anomalies. Not sure I'll find one in here, but most of them are simply planets. You've got some key stuff like water world. Will be shown by an all blue planet symbol. Then these ones are planets that have variable percentages of water on the system. Then you've got dry planets here that don't have any free water on them. This is a little bit depicted through the symbols. The stuff around here, the green stuff here, means it's got a habitable atmosphere, or a livable, a breathable atmosphere. Then you've got, I think, hardly or not non-breathable atmospheres, no atmosphere at all. All this data that is included in the Universal World Profile gets translated in some visual cues on the map. Yeah, but what if you want to go ahead and create some routes yourself and additional information? Well, basically this is a drawing style and you can use that as any other drawing style. For example, you say you wanted a new system to be discovered or something, not very appropriate in a setting in such a detailed already, not border sector, but you might have a border sector where exploration is going on, and then later add planets. You can just click a symbol on here. Oh, we do need to set it to a smaller size. Okay, I've got too large size here for this. Oh, actually what we should do is just take a look at the symbol and see what size it is. A symbol reference, the worlds, we've got a scale of... no, I think it's different. I've got a different symbol catalog loaded here. So if that load the traveler system style, no, it's still too large. Okay, so we do need to adjust the size manually. Let's have a quick look. This is about the size, so I guess it would be 0.02. And to match this, we could, no, it does look a little bit too large. So it's probably 0.075. That looks about right. And we could set this as the default size of the map. So we have got the matching scale for the map. And you could then grab the symbol, zoom in again, turn on grid. That way you hit the center point of the spaces, place it here. And if I go to the... I could then go in to take a planet name, place this here, and put in the name. And now the style is too small. Okay, I'm a bit... We do need probably the full size for this. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a bit of a mismatch here between the planet symbols and the other ones. I'm not quite sure why this is here at this point. There seems to be some mismatch in the style. I've not used this style to create new stuff myself because I'm not playing Traveler and doing stuff. So, but you'll have to switch between the different sizes for the symbols and the other additional information symbols here on the map. So say you wanted to create a history of the route your players with their ship have taken. You could take a look here at the different drawing tools. So we can draw in travel zones and borders, and we also have a tool for the expo routes. Here, the green one that can just use like this, and it will create a route like the white ones from the import. And so let's say we wanted to create something a bit more visible and have a red one that shows the travel of the players. So let's click to advanced, make a copy of the drawing tool. Let's call it player route. And in the properties, choose a red. And we could, let's create a new sheet for that as well. Let's just call that players, and the layer. Do you have anything else? I think I'll just leave that on the export. That's fine. Here we go. And then we can do this to here, to here, to near Agora. And then, of course, we don't need to, we've got the new sheet here. It wasn't previous in the map, so using the drawing tool like this, we'll just edit at the end of the list. So we'll just move it just above the export sheet and take a look here. And there's a list of sheets, which will of sheet effects. We'll just paste on the player's sheet, so we've got the same transparency and little offset we have. And there's my new direction, or my new tool, which allows me now to track the route of the players. I might actually, I'm thinking I could even make this current color, so I can actually differentiate that for different trips, perhaps different game sessions we were using. So here, say they did this bit of the trip in another session, and then we'll go for yellow to do the last one. And this way you can have different stretches of the route in different colors. Okay, yeah, people are happy about the stuff that goes wrong. Yes, you always learn most from mistakes and errors and little problems. That's always the handy part in that. I'm actually going to investigate a little bit further. Oops, that's a bit too far out. Why we are getting the difference between the different settings here. So if I wanted to add more information to the new Agora, say I want to show what starport type, and it's got no starport because it's going to be an unexplored and previously undiscovered place. So I'm just going to put an X, and we are in the small size again. So undo that and make this. That's no surprise. This is our default symbol scale I've put in, and therefore we were at that scale. But if I switch to the planets and grab this, these are much larger. I think I know why this happens. That's because this is already a symbol in the map, and the script that places the symbols in there does scale them matching to the map, but doesn't respect the default symbol scale. It does use the standard scale for that size, and therefore if I take a symbol from the map and place it in here, it is scaled differently. I think that's going to be the root of the problem. And the other one stuff is that explodes on placement, I think. Oh, doesn't it? List. Take a look here. No, info list. If I list both that and the planet, I've got the starports here, and that is now a text. So you see that is not a symbol anymore. Basically, this is a symbol that gets exploded into its part when placed, and so it becomes an actual text entity. Therefore, we don't see any scaling in here, and the symbol of the planet does, of course, remain a symbol, and we have the scaling. All right. Good. So much for the sector maps. And if you don't want to create a map that is delivered by the Traveler Maps website, but you want to create your own setting, you can of course do that as well. You just click New and save the map and go to Cosmographer, but this time pick a predefined template and not the site settings myself. And then you'll find the proper styles in here. All empty, ready for you to fill it out and create your own setting in the same kind of style. You can of course go in and change the references here, so you might have different symbols or meanings for the different pieces in there. But if you want to do something on the Traveler system, but just in your own created universe, then you can just use this. This is obviously a bit large and big, or too much detail to properly work on in a mapping session. So instead, what we're going to do, we'll take in one of the subsectors and fill that in, or at least do a little bit of work on that. And you can do that. What you cannot do, unfortunately, in this implementation is just take the data or just pull in a single subsector data from the Traveler Map website. Though you could get, I think, a query that gives you just the subsector data. We don't have the translation that puts that into a campaign cartographer script. But this is actually not that difficult. For example, what you can do is if we create a new map, again, choose a predefined template, and we've got the specific traveler subsector stuff here. So, and there's, you see that is the standard traveler map for a single sector or subsector. And what you can actually do is you could go into our previous map here, grab, oops, now we do need to zoom in, or at least turn off the grid, and sheet effects. No, come on, activate sheet effects, there we go. And copy all the contents of a subsector, though we should probably not select the X and square grid there. Oh, now I've hidden it. It should be frozen, so let's have a quick look. Where these are located. Okay, this does not actually. Okay, let's have a look again. Why does it shouldn't select the hex lines? Let's have a look. Why not? By layer hex and square grid. Yeah, doesn't respect them. Okay, no, all right. Then do a copy. Oh, I already did. Started the command. Sorry, that was my mistake. Let's try again. Combine not layer hex and square grid, and then do it. Grab a grid point as reference. Now we're gonna go back to our new map, which I forgot to save. Do insert, use the same grid point, and there we have the basic world data imported in the map, and we would have this subsector here to work on. I've got another question. Oh, no, we already got it answered. All right, and so it's done on sheet effects here, and you see you do have the sheet effects like the danger zones, and you've got all the planets in here and atmospheres stuff, though it looks like not the atmospheres are actually not in this template. That's because they are an optional thing on the import, but we can, of course, these should be behind the planets, behind the worlds, basically. There we go. So there we go. But do want to create my own stuff in here. So here we are with a blank map, and we could start out by planning our system here where we want to place some maps. Here we've got the proper size of the worlds. See, the worlds are all in, there's lots of different ones in a group. At least here, 8 different planets, symbols. Let's zoom in a bit so we can see that better. And we can just use tab to go through the different ones, place them, do a little cluster here, and then just, okay. They're all a little bit different. This is probably again because I've got some which are already placed in the map. So let's see what happens if I purge all the symbols. Yeah, that's no, it looks like I've got a new one. The ones I were already in there had the correct size. Okay, interesting. There's a bit of a mismatch there somewhere between the maps that get placed in an automatically created map and the ones on the... Gotta take a closer look at that with a little bit of time on my hands. These are some asteroids there, and then we've got the gas giant symbols for the planets that have a gas giant in their vicinity. And let's place a wormhole here. There we go. And where's my gas giant? There. Set to normal, and then I define which system does have gas giants. It's common normally, the systems do have one, but there's always a chance we don't have anything. Basically what in the setting that the starships skim hydrogen from the atmosphere of gas giants to produce fuel, and therefore it's much easier to refuel and cheaper too if you can just grab it from a gas giant somewhere in the system instead of buying it dearly from the starport. And then let's put down some communication routes. Where are we? There's our export. Let's start in here. Oh, actually, there we go. Probably it's a little bit direction to other places. There we go, and there might also always be lines that are systems that are not on the main communication routes. But we also, okay, there we are. But I see the export sheet is above the world sheet, and so therefore the lines are covering the planets a little bit. What you can do, what is I think the standard in the normal traveler maps, which is why I said it like this, you'd break a gap, so you could go like this and actually do this. No, actually gap is correct because that's one line. Turn off snap and break a little gap around the planet here, and therefore it's a bit clearer in the hex. But what you in our system can do, you can of course also just move the expo sheet behind the atmospheres or behind everything else basically in this hex, and then it's gonna be fine as well. And then you would go about placing the names of the systems. You can of course use the normal text, but there's basically 2 different symbol catalogs for the traveler maps included. They are accessed by clicking the traveler icon up here. One is the one I've just opened with all the little symbols and the text for stuff, and the other one is the one with the planets. and the for special systems symbols. And these are set up that you can just use the grid, snap to the grid center, and place in the name, and then it will be the correct size and spot for the name there. So you don't have to worry about exact placement. You'll all have them in the same reference point. So just let's name some of these systems here. Oops. Oh no, now I used the text. After all, I didn't want to do that. I just want to do this. New Terra. Here we go. And you can do stuff like one of the, you can use the capital here. I think that's going to be a little bit larger. So let's put that in here. Let's say this Hyperion. Oh, it does look pretty much the same. I'm not sure about all the little different details. I'm not sure why this is a name for a capital and the other one for the planet. Perhaps it's a different layer. Like quick look. Symbol definition. No, actually, the layer is not set for these automatically. So you should probably first set the world names layer before placing these. So let's do this now, and let's do change layer, grab the names I've placed so far and put them on the proper layer on world names. And then let's do the other ones. Junction X. There we go, and then we've got the star gleam. Trying to come up with system names for science fiction maps is not something I usually do. So there we go. And let's call it this the Rift. Turn off the grid. And you've got the first things for a collection of little worlds that you can spin a little story around. And so let's put in some starports just to indicate how the starport facilities are there. So we've got the different ones in the group here. So we can just, this is main world, and let's call these our 2A starports. Always a very important thing in Traveler. An A-level starport is a very important junction. We've got a D here, and then we've got probably some X's. This one, and let's do actually something here. There we go. Then we might have some travel zones. So this does look very much like a, oh, that's a green zone actually. Yeah, okay, like a red zone to me. Call this a yellow one. There we are, and this is also going to be a red zone. And then we can do some research. Let's say there's a research station here. Here we've got a navy base. This planet will have a scout base, and there's probably some mining base going on here. There we are. What I'm not going to do is add any universal world profile here. That's something that would take a little bit more time to organize these things and put them together. So what we also don't have in here is a grid numbering system. I'm not sure I can add that quite easily, because might have noticed in the sector map the grids places are all numbered. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna give it a try. For that, I'll need to know how large my grid system is. It's gonna be 1, I think, because 1 is a parsec. Yes, so it's exactly 1 drawing unit from hex to hex. And we might need to create a new hex here. So this is our settings for the grid and the hex. I just used extract properties on the hex spawner. And if I try to create something like this. So we have draw hex or square overlay. We have, I think it's a vertical hex grid with a grid spacing of 1. And I want labels, numbers. Labels, okay. And select points. So let's go from down here. No, this is the wrong way around. See, that is a vertical grid is the other way around. And so let's go again. And my grid spacing was also still wrong. I failed to update that. There we go. So horizontal grid. Select points. Okay. Alright, looks like I'm back. Sorry for that. There seems to be an interruption in my internet connection there. Don't know what happened. It wasn't the cat, unless she might be fiddling with the router in the other room, so I don't know. Anyway, looks like I'm reconnected. Alright. Where was I at trying to remove the new grid that I added. Erase this, but of course I do not want to erase the numbers, so we'll combine not. Now I'm going to, so let's do that slowly. What I did there, I selected the newly added grid, which is grouped when I add it. Therefore I got everything, all the hex squares and the numbers in it. See, they are all magenta colored, and that means they are selected. But I've got only one entity selected, which is the group. So what I now want to do is unselect the text, but I can't do this at the moment because it's a group and I can't access them individually. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to unlock groups temporarily and then say combine not entity type text. I don't want to have this text selected. Does that work? No, it does not. Combine not entity type 3 text. No, it doesn't. Looks like I cannot. I thought I could change the status of the group lock in mid command, but perhaps I'm mistaken. Let's do it another way. I'm just going to cancel here at this point. And erase prior. No, doesn't work. Alright, so that did not work as selected as expected. So once more, let's erase this. Do it. Yeah, it's not what I wanted, so I'm going to undo. Now I'm going to unlock the group. Erase by layer X or square grid. No, but now I'm going to get everything, which I do not want. And no matter what, I'm just going to erase the sections that extend beyond the border and not worry about the double lines I might have at some points. So I'm just going to erase that and the pieces I have up here. And there I am with the ones. Oh, I've got some more here on the side, which got added. Raise. See these numbers here. I'll combine and everything on the layer hex or square grid. And there's the stuff deleted I wanted to get rid of. And now I've got my hex numbers in the hex in there. And can continue working on the map as I want to edit this for my campaign. I can do stuff like edit existing text in here. So let's say I want to add the names. So let's say this is the pyramid sector, subsector C. Got the text in there. And then perhaps I want to change the in my setting I don't have an Imperium, so I want to change the name here. So I'm just edit the text and let's call this a hegemony naval base and hegemony scout base. Same with these, all the Imperial stuff. What in Traveler is my Imperium is going to be the hegemony in my setting. And then, yeah, we've got the different settings. Here's any Imperial references in here? No, none. So what I'm gonna do is just seeing that I've got the population difference here is in whether the name is in lowercase or in uppercase. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna edit this new Terra, and let's just make this in capitals. So I've got one place with more than a billion people there. Okay, and there we are. And I can now save this, call this pyramid sector subsector C. And I've got my first little piece of a new setting down. Oops. There we go. And I think we'll leave it at this here at this point. It's only 5 minutes until the hour is full, and it doesn't make much sense to start something new in here. Well, I might just take a quick look at the drawing style. It's the Cosmographer sector bitmap style, and you've got stuff, a few other things in here that you can use to make the map prettier. Like you can create some nebula outlines and see whether this sector template is set up to do this, because it's just yeah, it does that. It's on its own background nebula sheet here with a transparency and blur, so it's just some coloring, basic background coloring you're adding to the map. And let's have a look. You can also do some varicolor stuff in there. So if you want to add a little bit of a green tinge to an area, you can do this with the varicolor tool. It's a fairly soft effect, so it doesn't overpower anything else in the map. It's also on the background, which is nice. Then you can, also you might want to do some border areas. So say set up some specially marked areas as per the hexes. And you can, if you turn on the grid, you can use Oh no, because I added the new grid, I've got a different grid set up. Okay, normally you can use the vertices or the points on the hexes to draw, but because I've added the new grid, the grid setting got changed and I can't quite do that anymore. But what I can do is I can use the attach mode, I think, and just use the endpoints of these here to attach the tool to the corners there, although not always quite 100% match because I hit a different entity there, I think. But if you've, there we go. I don't need to add a node in here. And there I did something wrong. Hit the wrong spot. No, I'm thinking I'm hitting a node in there which I do not want. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to use the edit function. And this way you can outline the area there. Only problem is that I'm hitting some spots. I think the problem is that my attach setting is the nearest point on and not the nearest endpoint. If I had chosen the nearest endpoint for the attach mode. Let's redo this slowly. So let's undo this here, get rid of this polygon I drew. Actually, I should put it too long ago. So I'm just going to remove it the hard way. And let's grab the setting again. Let's attach to the nearest endpoint. And if I click that, then I still hit different pieces because I've got the nebula there in the background, which interferes with the attachment. So let's turn that off for a second. And let's try again. Closed area, attach. See, that seems to be working better. There we go. And let's just outline these two settings, systems as a specific area. There we are. That's much better. That's what I wanted. The borders are a little bit too front up for me. I don't want them above the worlds. So I'm going to move them back as well, just above the nebula. Show the nebula again. And now I've got my highlighted hexes plainly visible on the map. If I wanted it to be a little less visible, I could increase the transparency or decrease the opacity, say to 25%, and then the effect is much less pronounced. All right, and there we are, and we've completed our hour of mapping for today, and you've had a look at the sector and subsector map styles, map templates, and the traveler sector import function. I just sometimes like to grab a sector from the list and just look at it being filled with all the stuff in detail and then look around a bit. I used to play a little bit of the Traveler role-playing game back in the day. It's been a long time, but it's always been a fun game. And if you're interested in science fiction role-plays and haven't taken a look, take a look at Traveler. There's a huge wealth of material, lots of background, and some interesting rules for simulation and stuff. It's a very interesting system. Thank you very much for watching. Again, if you enjoyed the session, do give us a like and subscribe to the channel perhaps to get updates. When something new comes, hopefully next week again. And otherwise, have a good evening and keep up the mapping. Share your maps on our forum or the Facebook group. Always love to see your stuff. Until then, have a good time. Bye-bye.